Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards, and this week we're going to be focusing on composure in the final third. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be moving into a drill which is focusing on 1v1 scenarios to try and score on a small-sided goal, and then move into obviously a full-size goal with a goalkeeper. But before we get into it, let's have a look at how many players we're working with this week and the equipment that we'll be using. So in terms of players for this week, we're going to have 10 outfield players plus a keeper, but you can adapt that for more players as well and less players at the same time as well. Now, in terms of the equipment, we're going to be focusing on using balls, bibs and cones, and then if you don't have small-sided goals, then you obviously can use poles to set out an area for a goal. Now, in terms of the setup for this part of the session, okay, in terms of the depth, so final third here, we're going to go about 20 yards, so 20 to 25. Obviously, you can look to increase it if you feel you need to. And then this area here is just going to be 15 yards, so 15 and then either 20 or 25. Now, in terms of the width, just 20 yards of width as well. So there's going to be players waiting either side, a player either side of the small-sided goal, and then 3 players from each team here. So, defenders here will have a ball each, okay? The ball will get played into an attacker, who then looks to drive a goal quickly, okay? So this player looks to close them down. If the defender wins the ball off the attacker, okay, they will then receive the next ball off the coach, okay, and go and attack in that small-sided goal, so they've still got a chance to score. Now, if the attacker, they want to get the ball, obviously, trying to drive into space quickly, okay, can they look to create that opening to score? Then, as soon as that's finished, they can move either side, okay, they're looking to move into the final third quickly, to receive the ball off the coach, okay, and go in and score. So again, that composure in the final third in front of goal, obviously being chased by a defender, can they look to finish? If it comes off the keeper, okay, the defender can go in and score as well. So either player can score there to get a point. Now, in terms of the scoring, every time a player scores in the small-sided goal, okay, they get a point. Every time a defender wins the ball back, so you've got to cleanly win the ball, okay, they can get a point. You can even have an extra goal there if you wanted to as well. And then every time a player scores in this goal as well, they get a point in there. So again, driving into that space, okay, can they look to make sure that they make it difficult for the defender, okay, by making quick decisions, okay, so if they're dropping the shoulder going one way and then going the opposite way to finish, as soon as they've done that, can they react to get in there quickly? Can they take a touch, obviously keep it closing down and look to score? In terms of the rotations, so once a player has been an attacker, okay, they will move to this wide position here. Once a player has been a defender, they go to the back of the queue, okay? And once the player has been here, they'll then move in to be a defender. So obviously then what we'll see is that the red defender will play in, gets played into here, okay, drive into the space, player looks to score, they can come in here quickly, gets received in there, and you can even finish first time if they want to as well. Then what will we see? Obviously one red defender will come in here, this one moves up. This player moves to be the attacker here, and then this player will move up to there. And again, you've got an equal amount of numbers of players there, so obviously we're not racing around, waiting for players to get back into position and things like that. There's always going to be a set amount of players so that the drill can move smoothly. So the players, again, composure in the final third here, decision-making in here to take the player on and score. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Now moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now moving into a finishing circuit where we're going to be finishing on 3 different angles, okay? Now, in terms of the setup for this part of the session, so from the goalkeeper here to where the wide players are here, that's going to be about 20 yards. And then the strikers here are going to be 5 yards further back. And then these players 10 yards, these players 15. So in total, you're looking at about 40 yards of depth. And then you want the distance between the goal, okay, so about 8 to 10 yards between these two players here. Wide players, you can put them as far out as you want, so maybe you just do 15 yards either side. And then for these players here, they only have to be about between 5 and 10, and then these players can be on the same line or literally just off it. Now, this side and that side will be doing two separate finishes, okay, and the players can swap over after a set amount of time. So the first finish is going to be the player spinning in behind to finish after they've set the ball. So the play starts here. This player here will drop in to receive the ball, and they will set the ball back across to this player. As they set the ball back, they're then going to time the movement to spin in behind to meet a ball played in there. So it's going to be finishing either just outside the box or just in the box. Obviously, the keeper can look to come out, player looks to finish. Once the player is finished there, they look to react quickly, spin to come in front of this pole or cone here, okay, where the ball will get played into here for the player to take down the line, so take a touch off the feet, adapt the body shape to put themselves in a position to finish. Now, once they've finished for the second time, okay, they then look to move around the cone to be able to face, obviously, where the wide player is, where the ball will get played in for them to move on to and finish. So that ball's coming across the body, so it's using that pace on the ball to guide the ball into the goal. Once the player's done their third finish, then we look at the rotations. Striker will become the player who goes into the wide area. This player will move up to be the person who sets second. Person goes back to the start point here. Player at the start point goes to be the striker. Then the other side will go. Okay, so obviously we'll start here. Player receives the ball this side, gets played across, gets played back. Time that movement so you're not in too early, so you're actually being able to move on to that ball and finish. As soon as that one's finished, the player looks to move round into space. The ball gets played into there, touch out the feet again, take the ball into space and finish. And then finally, the player then looks to move back round here. So create space to receive it. So when they're dropping into here, make sure they can see the ball and they can time it so they can move on to it, okay, and strike from there. And again, the rotations. This player moves out wide. This player moves up one. This player moves to the start point. And then this player will go and be the striker. So again, the ability to play first time, okay, and keep the tempo from these two players, and then that first touch, so timing the spin in and making sure that ball goes away from the body to move on to, okay, entice the keeper to come out and then look to strike across goal. And the final finish, adapting the body shape to see the ball, okay, and obviously where the space where they want to go into, and timing that movement to be able to meet the ball, not being in there too early, okay, and then they've got to try and just dig a shot out, okay, making sure that when they're moving around, the player is playing that pass in as they move around so the player can move on to it and meet that ball as it comes across the body to finish. And like I say, after a set time, the players can look to rotate and then obviously go to the opposite sides. We will now move into our second animation before moving on to the final part of this week's session. Okay, now moving into the final part of this week's session, we're now moving into a small-sided game-based scenario. So in terms of the setup for this part of the session, so this area here, so obviously if you've got a proper pitch you can use, we're going to use the 18-yard box, okay, and then a further 15 yards in here. So you're looking obviously between like 33 yards, but again, you could even just do 15 yards if you wanted to, or 20 yards in here, and have a 15-yard area in here. In terms of the width, again, you're going to go about 20 yards of width in here, okay, and then either 5 or 10 yards either side for the floaters. So the players are locked into their zones, okay, but a player can score from anywhere. So obviously, if these players get the ball here, drive into space and an option comes to shoot, they can do, okay, but the players are just locked in, so we're focusing on these players in here, okay, in that final third, being confident and composed to score, using the floaters, so obviously they can get the ball out of this area, into here, the player can make a run, okay, to take a defender away, this player drops in, we'll look to finish. So we're just trying to score as many goals as we can, okay? And the way you could set it is that maybe a first team to 10 wins. You could play for 2 to 3 minutes, whichever team scores the most goals in that time, wins the game. Then you can swap the players over in here. You could also swap the floaters over with other players as well. So we're focusing on, you know, the speed of our play, the tempo, getting the ball into that final third, our decision making, being comfortable receiving the ball and finishing in tight areas. So when the ball comes into a player's feet, here? Can we get movement off the player to receive the ball, or to even entice the defender to move away, to spin and finish? So we're wanting to try and get lots of different finishes. So receiving in space, receiving obviously with limited space as well. Can we have shots where we're driving into space? There's not as much sway mat, so we're focusing again on different finishes as you would in a game. So the play will always start with the coach. We're playing to one area, the coach might even play to here, the coach might play to the floater. Team obviously looks to work the ball, so you can use those floaters to get players into here, receive it again. Can they look to play in? Can they look to finish? If a team scores, again, they get the next ball. So we'll get played to here, playing to here, and again, look, instantly going in and finishing. Opposition team looks to obviously win the ball back when the ball comes in. Can they look to intercept a pass? When they win the ball, where's the route to goal? Maybe into the floater, players attacking the box, looking to score, and again, they'll receive it next. So the intensity's high, the tempo's really high. Okay, we're focusing on, obviously, players moving to receive the ball, moving to create space as well, making sure that they're checking the shoulders, being aware of the surroundings, adapting the body shape to take the first touch, to be able to score, to be able to finish first time as well, being able to see the ball, being able to obviously put themselves in a position where they want to receive it, to score as well, being confident to drive with the ball, 1v1s, and being able to combine with each other. So lots of different things going on. The main thing, again, composure in that final third. Not obviously being overwhelmed when the ball's coming in, it's just bouncing everywhere. Can we look to, okay, be confident on the ball, sharp decision making, and look to find a route to goal. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. Don't forget to head over to our website where you can sign up to view all our exclusive content. And we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.